Alright, so we're going to start by drawing shapes for our mouth drawings. I have here a simple grid just to help me position them better. You can do a simple one on paper or on PC, so this is completely optional. We're going to cover three types of shapes: natural, thin, and full lips. So we can do something more simple, and after we can try out something with a bit more contrast, and we can play with the differences between sizes and exaggerate some aspects of it. At the beginning, we're not going to worry too much how our lines look, so let's just focus on the shapes and the position of where everything is going to be. That's the important part at this moment. So, let's pick a simple brush that you enjoy, or a pencil if you're doing this in a sketchbook or piece of paper, and let's start. Since we're doing natural lips, try to keep things in an even out size ratio. Let's start with a simple horizontal line for the mouth. You can add a bit of a wave look to it so it looks more natural. And now create a simple shape on top for the upper lip, a simple squared shape with rounded corners and slanted sides. And below, we can just make a wide semicircle for the lower lip. I'm going to increase the size a little bit so it looks more stretched out. Now I'm making a new layer and switching to a darker color. If you're doing this on paper, just grab a darker pencil if you'd like, or a pen. Focus now on creating less lines at a time, making curved shapes. Sketch it out smoothly and relax. You can also add a bit of shadow below the lip to give it a bit more depth. If you want, you can close the lines of the lip here below, but it's not really necessary. Normally, I don't close everything up so it doesn't look very artificial, and then when it's time to paint, I paint the whole shape to make up for it. But it's totally up to you and your style. I'm going to close it up here so you can see the shape better. I'm going to increase the overall size of the lip so you can see it in more detail. So now I'm going to add here some horizontal lines, so we have reference lines that we can use for the following lip drawings. Alright, there we go. We have a very simple, natural shape, one that you see everywhere in paintings, games, illustrations. It's just a base standard. Now we're going to try to round things up a bit, taking into account the previous shape we've worked on. Focus on creating smooth and loose lines, like two half circles, one on top and another one in the bottom, or like a big ellipse around everything. Unlike the previous one, where we just made more straight shapes with rounded corners, this is more like a wide rounded ellipse, making it more tender and simplistic. Let's sketch things up more. We have here the mouth line, almost an horizontal line, but going down at the edges. And now, do the lips real simple, with nice curved lines everywhere. Here for the lower lip, you can just make a big curved line. Or for example, you can just draw this lower point here, and you have a nice looking mouth. But I'm going to close it up so you have a better reference to look at. And there we go. So we have here the first one, which is a bit more squared. The second is more round. So let's try doing a bit more pointy now. This time, instead of having a mostly straight line for the mouth, let's make an M shape like this, and stretch it out to each side. And now we do the same for our upper lip, a big M shape with rounded corners. Finally, for our lower lip, do a curved line, but let's try to make the tip a bit more pointy, giving it a stronger edge than the previous ones. Let's go over the sketch lines now. Again, don't worry if the lines look messy. Just try to take your time and repeat as many times as you wish. These are merely for practice. Alright, so now I'm going to speed the video up a bit so you can see me sketching a few different shapes for lips. The basic principle applies, where you start with the mouth line and try to keep the size ratio of the entire lip even, keeping about the same volume in the upper lip as in the bottom lip. Try out other shapes you can think of, or try looking for other references, such as photos and fashion magazines. They are usually very nice to use for sketching. Play with different sizes and shapes. Anything that you can think of is possible, as long as you adapt it to the general lip shape. And here are some final sketch examples to you to take a look. From straight edges to rounded lips to triangle shapes. Keep practicing whenever possible. Next, we'll be taking a look at thin lips, so I'll see you there. Hey again! We're now going to learn and practice some thin lips. We'll also be more bold with our contrast with the exaggeration between sizes. So, for our thin lips, we want to make each lip very thin. That means that our lines will be much more closer together than the other types of lips. Let's start. Pick up your pencil or a simple brush and let's create a simple wavy line. Now add 2 arches to the upper lip, very close to the previous line so it looks very thin. And finally, just add a bigger line below, always keeping it very close to our mouth line. Now let's clean it up. Feel free to use a pen in this step. Take your time, go slower or faster depending on yourself and your habits. Just do your own thing. Try different styles with full lines all around, or with just a simple line in the middle not connected to the rest. Alright, so we have very thin lips and very wide. Let's try something more pointy now. Let's do an M shape for the mouth line. Then we can add a simple line below for the bottom lip, and another M shape for the upper one. This way, we can still have very pointy lips, but keeping them thin. Let's quickly clean this up with a darker shade. We're only doing closed mouths here, so we're going to cover open mouths and how each sound you make when talking looks like, so don't worry about it for now. Of course, you can try and sketch this out already, but for our first videos, we're focusing only on closed mouths. Lovely! Now let's try something very round and wavy, instead of something as pointy as before. So, let's do a simple curved line for the mouth line, and creating a lip shape for both lips, like this. Now we can clean this up so it's easier to see and reference from. Just focus on keeping the lines somewhere close together, since we're doing thin lips in this video. Alright, so I'm going to keep going with a few more lips now. I'm speeding up the video since there isn't much to talk about, but I still want you to be able to look at the process. I'm playing a bit with the thickness in these next few examples. First, I'm doing an example where the bottom lip is much thicker than the upper lip, then the opposite right after. You can try different shapes and play around with the sizes and thickness to see what works and what doesn't. Just try to keep at least one of the lips thin, since we're focusing more on thin lips in this video. Lovely! Here are the examples of the lips I've created. Next, we're going to talk about full lips. I'll see you there. Hello again! We're on our third part of our videos about shapes. Now we're going to do the opposite of the previous video, so we're going to make very lush and full lips instead of thin ones. Let's start here with a simple one, creating an M shape for our mouth line as usual. We're going to make somewhat pointy lips, so don't worry too much about how the lines look, since these are just sketches. But, if you want, you can clean everything up after you're done with the sketch. Make a big round bottom lip. Opposite to the previous thin lips, we want the lines to be really further apart from each other, instead of being close together. Let's also make the M shape for the upper lip. Very high up there. Don't make it close to the mouth line. I always tend to do 2 sketch lines, as you've probably seen in my classes, since it helps by letting myself improve the second lines based on the first reference ones, but it's mostly a personal choice. Once you're used to it, you can just make one set, and go for the final lines. It's totally up to you. So, as you can see, this is the exact opposite of the previous we've done. It's all about keeping the lines further apart from each other. Now, let's try something a bit more squared. Make an arch for the mouth line going down. Now, a lush and big bottom lip, more square than the previous lips, but keep the corners rounded. Now we just need to make the top lip, also with rounded corners. Don't be afraid and test a few things. It's always good for you so you can try different ideas, and this way you even have some references around that you can use when you're building your character. Alright, so we have the base shapes. Let's clean it up a bit and make it more noticeable. I always start with the mouth line, so it acts as my base guideline for the rest of the mouth, but it's up to you how you do your process. Lovely. Let's go for the next with very round and curved lips. Let's start with the curve for the mouth line, but with it going upwards this time instead. Then, make very round lips, both on the lower and the upper one. Don't forget to keep the top one with a semi-M shape. Now we just clean it up a bit, always keeping the lines smooth and loose. There we go. Alright, I'm going to speed the video up now. We're going through a few types of lips with different sizes for each lip, trying different shapes and so on. You can use reference from many places, including different websites or photo galleries. Even regular magazines will do. You can also just sketch people up that you see on the street and see how each mouth is so much different than the other. So here are some examples of the mouths I've created. Feel free to post yours in the discussion. Next, we'll be talking about the placement of the mouth on the side position and on the front position, and some notes about female lips versus male lips. Hello again, we have been practicing our lips with many shapes and types, and now we're going to see them in action by placing them in the head. We have here our head guidelines, and I'll be including them in the video in case you want them, but this is totally optional, although I find it really helpful for practicing purposes. So, let's get started. We're going to draw some natural lips, the first ones we drew when we talk about shapes. Let's start with the side position and then move on to the front position. On a general note, the mouth position should be somewhere below the nose and the middle of the distance between the nose and the chin. Let me show you this better by making a rectangle here. The mouth should be somewhere around here, and it goes to the middle of this rectangle most of the time. Of course, this varies a lot on your character, so again, try things out and experiment different placement by exaggerating mouth position and size. I'm just drawing a quick chin here so it's easier to see, but we'll cover chins more in depth on a different video. The mouth comes from near the nose, usually through a curve. It's not all straight down. And then here, on the side position, the general lip shape looks like an M on the side. Next, we can make the mouth line here, dividing the lips, and connect the points to the extremity of the lips. It almost looks like a heart shape right now. There we go. This is where our mouth should be, generally speaking. We have here our placement. Let's try and draw our lips a little better now. Just go through the lines, keeping them loose all around, and keep going. Don't worry too much if they don't look quite right. Feel free to take your time and repeat lines as necessary. Alright, now I'm just going for some final lines, trying to do as few strokes as possible. I'm just going to fast forward this video since there's not much to it. Just go over your lines with few strokes and keeping them clean and loose. Nice! Now we can paint it up, choose a skin tone and paint all around the lips and mouth. This will help by making it look like it's not just a pair of lips floating around. Now we can pick a reddish or pinkish color and paint the actual lips. Just fill them in carefully. You can also add a quick shadow if you'd like. to give it some more depth. In this case, our light comes from the right, so the shadows are a bit to the left. Nicely done! Let's move on to the front-facing position. We have here our guidelines. Our mouth placement should be something around here, below the nose. It always depends also on what style of drawing you're making. If it's a caricature, it can be placed higher up or lower it near the chin. It can even cover the entirety of the area, so try different things and adapt to your style. I'm just sketching here the same shape as we did in the videos before, so I'll fast forward this a bit. If you'd like to see it more in depth, go to our previous video on natural lips, where we go step by step. So I'm going through the sketches, cleaning everything up, and then going for the final lines. I'll also add some colors as I did before. Pretty simple. The light here is also coming from the right side, so most of the shadows will be on the left, keeping everything pretty rounded up since the lips are tender and not a hard surface. And there we go, our lips from a profile perspective and front view. Next, I'm going to give you some quick notes about the differences between male and female mouths. See you in a bit. So I just wanted to give some quick notes on female and male differences when drawing the mouth. We have here a comparison between both male and female, so you can have a better notion. When we draw female lips, we tend to have more curved lines and we shape better our lips. But you can see there are some big differences between one and the other. In the male lips, we have more straight lines and it's a bit shapeless. We can give the shape later by adding some shadows. Although of course this is a stylistic approach, so you don't need to draw them this way. We can also take a look at our other kind of lips. For example, here are the thin lips. It's basically the same concept. We just change our drawings and shapes. A bit more detailed when doing the female lips with more shape, and straight lines and simpler on the male lips. And you can do the shape through color. Here's also the full lips so you can see the differences. Alright, that's what I want to cover on this quick video. Next we're diving in on shins, so I'll see you in a bit. Hey again! So we're going to make a quick break on mouths and go into shins for now. We'll be talking about different types of shins, from pointy and round to squared shins, and their placement. In this video we'll cover female shins, and afterwards we're going through male shins. So let's do this! I have some base lips here just for reference. For female shins, they tend to be smoother, just like the lips. Of course, this isn't a rule. It doesn't always have to be super delicate. For a pointy shin, it's very simple. Make a tiny curve near the lips, into a straight line going down, into a rounded corner. Then, you just make a slanted line, going up for the rest of the shin. Here's the clean-up version. Pretty straightforward. Let me just add some quick color, so it looks more in touch with the rest of the face. There we go. Let's move on to the front view. Once again, it's going to be a pointed but rounded chin, instead of having a hard angle. I'm going to clean this up a bit with fewer lines. If you want, you can just copy one side and flip it so it's symmetrical. Now add some quick colors as before. Let's move on to a more rounded chin. For this, just focus on the curves of the chin and exaggerate them a bit. Something like this, with a bigger curve than before. Very smooth. Let's quickly just clean this up and add some base skin color. Lovely. Now for the front position, just do the same. A big curve from one side to the other, keeping it very smooth. Now just clean it up and add the skin color. You can still have different types of shapes for the female face. You don't need to make always the same shape, but here I'll be focusing on creating a very simple and smooth face shape. Now let's do a squared chin. Focus more on a sharp angle, although keeping it somewhat rounded since we're doing a female version. Of course, here we are always keeping things pretty balanced, but you can exaggerate at will. For example, if you were creating a witch character, you could make the chin going out and very, very pointy. So don't be afraid to experiment. You have the basic shapes and you can mix and match and play with them. Alright, let's move on to the front position for the squared shape. This will look quite like the head guidelines we have, keeping everywhere pretty squared, although with rounded corners so it doesn't look too tough and rough. Then just clean everything up with some skin tone. There we go! Nicely done! Hey there, just a quick note on the female shins we did and how they look next to each other. So we have here a pointy style, a rounded style, and finally a squared style. I will give this file to you, so feel free to use them as a reference and practice a lot. Try to exaggerate the shapes, come up with a character, mix up shins and lip types, and so on. I'll catch you in the next video. Alright, so you've seen the female version, let's now draw the male version. Start with a sketch. Let's make a pointy chin first. Make a straight line going down, and then another line more diagonal for the rest of the chin. Here you can make more hard corners since we're doing male versions. Normally they are also broader and the lines are much straighter. Alright, there we go. Let's just add some quick color so we can see better the overall shape. As you can see, it's much different than the female between its lines and the hard shape of the chin. Let's go for the front view. This time we can mostly use the same lines as the guidelines. The male face is broader and with harder corners than the female version, making it look almost like an inverted mounted shape. There we go. Let's add some quick colors. Lovely, here is our pointy chin. Take your time doing this. Next, we're going to do the rounded chin. We start from near the lip and make a big round shape. Focus on making it look bulky and strong. We can even make the corners a bit straighter near the lip and at the end of the jawline. There we go, let's just color this up. As you can see, in the male version, everything is normally bigger and bulkier. This isn't the ultimate rule, but it's how it tends to be. Now let's do the front facing position. It's pretty much like the previous one, but instead of making it more pointy at the tip, we make it wider and more bulky, especially if you consider the female version. Alright, so let me just paint it up. And there we go. Finally, let's go for a more square jaw and chin. Focus on creating straighter lines, almost like you're drawing a big tilted rectangle below the mouth. It's all about keeping the lines very straight, but don't make it look like a total robot. So, try to round the corners a tiny bit if you think it looks too artificial. Alright, there we go. A strong big jaw and chin. Let's go for the front face then. Here we basically use the same shape of the guideline as well. Just create straight lines all around, make it a very wide jaw and chin. There we go. Round things up as needed, but keep everything bulky and strong. And here we have our squared chin. Well done! As you can see, it has much more volume than the previous ones. Alright, I'll see you in the next video. So, quick notes on the male chins and the comparison between them. Here we have the pointy chin, the round chin, and finally the squared one. Pretty different from the female chins, and this can be used on a large number of different characters. Feel free to practice them all and try mixing different types and see what you get. So, let's go now for some fun, which is making some expressions with the mouth. When we were drawing the eyes in another video, we talked about how the eyes are important for the expression that you're showing to the world. And the eyebrows are very important as well. But when drawing the face, another thing that you need to take in consideration is the mouth. So let's start with a normal or standard expression, very neutral like we did before. Let me make some quick final lines. This is basically the same as we did before and will serve only as a starting point to the expressions. Alright, now just a bit of color for the surrounding skin and the lips. And there we go, this is your standard expression. Let's build up from here. Let's start with something simple. I'm going to make a quick line here so it stays on the same horizontal line as the previous one. Let's start with a simple smile. So we're going to have a simple arch going up both ways, like this. Start by making the usual M shape for the mouth line. And then, when we make each side, we're going to make them going upwards, something like this. Then you can fill the lips below and up as much as you want. Nice! Let's clean this up just so it looks more clear. You can also add some tiny tips at the end to increase the notion of the smile. The lower lip also tends to extend a bit more horizontally since the mouth will be a bit stretched. Alright, let's just add some quick color and we're good to go. There's our simple smile. Now let's exaggerate the expression a bit and make a laughing mouth. You can make it going one way or the other, but I'm going to make it slightly up to the right and make a big shape for the open mouth. Let's also add a line here for the upper teeth showing up and another round one below for the tongue. Lovely, let's now clean things up with as few strokes as possible. Don't forget to add a small line here below just to represent the lower lip. The lips tend to disappear or blend in when you stretch the mouth, depending on the style you're going for, of course. So we need to keep representing them with some extra lines. Nicely done! Let's now add some quick colors to it, and don't forget the back of the mouth and the tongue. So let's take this one step further and make a very broad smile showing a lot of teeth. Start by making a big line from one side of the head to the other, curving upwards, and then make a box shape for the rest of the mouth. Now add a line in between for the teeth. There we go. Let's start cleaning it up. Don't forget the M shape on the lip. Although it's very stretched out, it's still showing up. And the line below for the representation of the lower lip. Nicely done. Let's color things up. This goes more for a creepy style, but of course you can always work how much more or less creepier you want it to look according to your lines. If you want to exaggerate it, you would want to increase the size of the mouth even further, making it very wide. And if not, you might want to make it less wide and a bit more closed with teeth showing. Alright, so here we have our 4 expressions, all positive expressions going from a standard one to a full grin. I'm going to cut the video here, and in the next one we will cover darker and sadder expressions. So I'll see you in just a moment. Alright, welcome back. Let's get started with some more expressions. Let's start with a simple sad expression. To make this, we would want the opposite of a smile, so we would make an arch with the tips going down, this way. So, make the mouth line according to this, and the lip line below and above to represent the lips. Now we can clean it up, very simply by making the line smooth and loose. Finally, let's just give it some color. This is a very simple expression. Feel free to practice how much you want. Lovely, now let's make something a bit more annoyed. Here we want to make something like this, a slanted line going down at the end. Then you can add the lip lines below and above the mouth line. Very simple with few strokes. Clean it up and we can paint it after. This works better when you want your character to feel annoyed, but not really sad or angry, a more neutral expression. It also works if you'd want him to look suspicious. Alright, let's now up it up a bit more and make something more surprised or even scared. Imagine a pyramid, but instead of a sharp tip, it has been cut before the tip. Something like this. Then you can add a curved line for the tongue and another line for the lip. Let's clean it up. If you want to exaggerate even more the surprised look, you can round the mouth instead of it having such sharper corners at each side. It all depends on what you're aiming for. Also, always keep in mind how the lip looks depending on your expression. So if in the expression your mouth gets wider, adapt accordingly and vice versa. Let's add some colors according to what we did before, and we're good to go. Let's go for our last expression of the video, where we're going to make an even stronger expression. So let's make an angry mouth. This will look very like our broad smile above, but we're going to put our shape upside down. So let's make something like this, a trapezium kind of shape. And you can already see the angry feel here. And of course, let's add some quick lines for the teeth. Now let's make our clean lines, with as few strokes as possible. You can add a few smaller lines at the corners to increase the way the expression looks. Don't forget the teeth lines, but I wouldn't recommend drawing it all the way since it might look a bit artificial, but this changes from style to style. And finally, let's add some colors as before, pretty simple. There we go! Well done! Have fun doing this and practice a lot. You can also look for some expressions around, or even grab a mirror or take some photos of yourself doing them and use them as reference. Next, we're going to train how to do mouths according to the sounds coming out when speaking. So I'll see you in a bit. Let's go to the last part of our mouth drawings. This time we'll be going to be drawing and seeing how the mouth works when making certain sounds. This is especially helpful if you want to make it look like your character or person you're drawing is talking. I'm going to do a few examples, so let's go through them. First, I'm going to make a quick grid as before, just to help positioning the mouth. Let's start with something simple, a sound that you do when your mouth is closed, like words with an M, B, or P. For example, the word magic or paper. For words like this, we want to make a very simple closed mouth, very neutral and almost a straight line for the mouth, like this. So that's it for words with M, B, or P. It's very simple with a closed mouth. Another easy one is when we say words with an O, like the actual sound we make, it makes our mouth look like a vertical ellipse. Our mouth becomes an oval shape. Feel free to exaggerate it depending on the style you're going for. I'm exaggerating a bit since in reality our mouths don't make such a perfect ellipse. This also works for other words, so words with an O, U, and Q make this shape. Next, let's see about the T sound. In this case, we don't quite open our mouth, but tend to show our teeth to make the sound. So in this case, we'll be looking at something like this. A semi-open mouth showing teeth. More or less like we did our broad smile in our previous video about expressions. So there we go. When you want to make it sound like your character is saying a T word, like teen or tree, that's how it looks. Alright, we've covered the M, B, and P for the closed and stretched mouth, the O, U, and Q sound with our round mouth, and stretched lips with teeth showing for the T. So now we can do other sounds with an open mouth. For example, with A words like Amy or alien. So we will have more or less the same that we did previously. We can open it up even a bit more. And we have here our soft teeth showing and our tongue. For an A sound, we open our mouth a lot. A good exercise for you is to be in front of a mirror and try out these sounds and see how your mouth moves. And you can try to draw from there. If you don't have a small mirror to look at, you can just take photos or make a video of yourself doing those sounds. Then just grab a sketchbook, piece of paper, or do it digitally and practice. And there we have it, our open A sound. Another interesting one is the L and N sound. These are in words where you put your tongue a bit out of your mouth, with your mouth open. So, a simple wide mouth shape, almost like before. And then we have here our teeth and tongue. For the L shape, the mouth is a little bit more closed than an A, and our tongue sticks out a bit. Just going to clean this up and resize it, so I'm fast forwarding this part of it. Here's our L and N sound. Another one very important and particular is an F sound. When we say our F words, we mostly bite our underlip. I'm going to exaggerate it a bit to make it stand out, but it's up to you how further along you take it. Something like this, like you're biting your underlip. Try out doing it yourself and recording it or in the mirror and see how you look. There we have our F sound for words like friend or fantasy. So these are most of the movements we make and the most important ones. The rest of the sounds are mostly through small changes of these base ones. If you're looking for a very particular one, then do try checking yourself on the mirror. I know it's the third time I've said this in this video, but it's really important. It will help you a lot. Alright, that's about it for the mouth sounds. Hey again, so let's go over a quick assignment for you to do. This will help you a lot in getting better at figure drawing, especially improving your face drawing skills. So I really recommend you don't skip this and just take a few minutes of your day to do it. Alright, so let's get into it. This is pretty straightforward. Just pick an expression from the ones we did before, choose if you want to do a male or a female character, and draw the facial features accordingly. Feel free to use the files I've given as reference to help you. I'm also giving you a template for the head that you can use. And that's it. I'm looking forward to seeing the assignment. Good luck, and I see you in a bit. Hey again, I would just like to leave this video here to thank you again for checking out this course. And remember, keep practicing your facial expressions on a daily or at least weekly basis. And check out our other courses if you want to learn more. I'll see you soon.